The distant fringes of the Ying galaxy shimmered with an eerie, cold light. This remote region, shunned by most interstellar empires and alliances due to its harsh conditions and scarce resources, had become a haven for the solar species. These beings, with iridescent skin that reflected starlight in captivating patterns and elongated limbs that moved with fluid grace in low-gravity environments, thrived here. Commander Lucian Carnell stood on the observation deck of Outpost Zenith, his translucent skin pulsing with unease as he studied the long-range sensor data. The readings were unmistakable, though he wished they weren't. Commander Ira Mellon, his second-in-command, approached with a data tablet, her swift movements betraying anxiety despite her composed demeanor. The anomaly is confirmed. It's not background radiation or a sensor glitch. Lucian's four-fingered hand traced the trajectory lines on the holographic display. How many ships are we facing? At least 300 capital ships, possibly more, Ira replied, her voice low. The energy signatures match vector weaponry. Their fleet is massive, far larger than anything they've deployed in the past decade. A chill coursed through Lucian's temperature-regulating skin. The Vector Empire was notorious across multiple star systems as merciless conquerors, leaving countless civilizations subjugated or obliterated. If they've targeted the solar frontier, Lucian began, have you contacted Central Command? Yes, but reinforcements are weeks away, Ira said. We're too far from any major solar stronghold. She hesitated, then added, I've been researching potential allies in nearby sectors. I found something unusual in the ancient archives. She displayed a faded text on her tablet. There are mentions of an alliance called Humanity, or Humans. They haven't been seen here for centuries, maybe longer, but the archives suggest they once had outposts in this region. What happened to them? Lucian asked. Unknown. They vanished, Ira replied, but the archives note a peculiar pattern, extremely low-band interstellar signals and just one ship. Lucian shrugged dismissively. What use is a single ship against a vector armada? They send hundreds of warships for minor conquests. Ira's expression remained grave. The archives are clear. They always sent just one ship. Before Lucian could respond, an urgent alert flashed across his console. Within minutes, the command staff gathered in the strategic planning chamber, their faces grim as they debated increasingly limited options. General Velo, the outpost's highest-ranking officer, summed up their predicament bluntly. The Vector fleet will reach our defensive perimeter in 7 standard days. Our shields can't withstand a prolonged assault of that scale. Evacuation is unfeasible given our civilian population. What about requesting aid? Major Vin suggested. The Cresian Alliance? The Meridian Collective? Too far, General Velo replied. Even at maximum warp, they'd take at least 15 days to arrive. A tense silence fell, broken only by the hum of life support systems. Then Lieutenant Sorrell, the communications specialist, burst in, his skin flickering with excitement. Commanders, we've received a response to our distress call. From whom? General Velo demanded. It's not from any known allies, Sorrell said, his voice tinged with confusion. The signal uses an ancient protocol. They identify as humans. Murmurs rippled through the officers. Most Solars considered humans a myth, mere legends. What's their message? Lucian asked, suddenly alert. Sorrell glanced at his data pad, his expression a mix of hope and disbelief. They're sending a ship. A fleet, General Velo pressed. No, sir, Sorrell replied. Just one ship. The room's tension thickened. Ira exchanged a worried glance with Lucian. The Vector Armada, with enough firepower to raise their colony, was closing in, and the mysterious humans, if they even existed, were sending a single vessel. It felt less like salvation and more like a cruel jest. Lord Silver stood on the command bridge of the Vector flagship, Eternal Dominion, his towering armor-clad figure casting a shadow across the polished obsidian floor. The view screen showed the approaching solar territory, a pitiful cluster of outposts and colonies clinging to the galaxy's edge. "Primitive," he muttered, his voice distorted by the ceremonial battle mask concealing his face. "They have no inkling of the glory they will soon serve." Admiral Kresh, his chief military advisor, bowed before speaking. "My lord, our scouts report minimal defenses. Their main settlement has a standard planetary shield, but it won't withstand our destroyer squadron for more than a few hours." "Excellent," Silver replied, his fingers tracing the ornate engravings on his command throne. "This sector will be a perfect staging ground for our deeper galactic expansion. The Solar's genetic traits will benefit our bioengineering division." The massive Vector fleet moved with practiced precision, hundreds of obsidian black warships in flawless formation. Each destroyer boasted ion-core light drives, quantum-tipped missiles, and gravitational disruption cannons. The Eternal Dominion, dwarfing even these formidable vessels, bore trophies from conquered worlds on its hull. At the solar outpost, Lucian and Ira worked tirelessly to bolster their meager defenses. Civilian evacuation protocols began, though everyone knew there weren't enough ships to save most of the population. "Any update on the human vessel?" Lucian asked while reviewing defensive positions with his security team. Ira shook her head. "Our sensors haven't detected anything matching the signal's origin coordinates. Either they haven't left or—" "They were never coming," Lucian finished grimly. "We must prepare for the worst." The Solar High Council convened an emergency session, with Lucian and Ira present. The debate was heated but futile. Their options boiled down to surrender or doomed resistance. As the meeting adjourned, a communications officer rushed in. "Commander, the Vector fleet has halted at our system's edge. They're transmitting a message." The holographic projector flared to life, revealing Lord Silver's imposing figure. His voice boomed with calculated menace. "People of the solar colonies, your existence has been deemed worthy of serving the Vector Empire. Surrender your worlds and submit to our authority, and you may live as our subjects. Resist, and you will be eradicated. You have 2 planetary rotations to respond. Your fate hinges on your wisdom." The transmission cut off, leaving a stifling silence. "We need more time," General Velo said finally. "If there's even a chance these humans might help." "I'll draft a response," Lucian volunteered, requesting additional time to consider their generous offer. "We might delay them a day or two." "Will the Vector agree?" Ira asked skeptically. "They relish the theater of conquest almost as much as conquest itself," Lucian replied. "Lord Silver will likely savor our apparent fear." Their ploy barely succeeded. The Vector granted 1 additional rotation to contemplate the inevitable. But as the deadline loomed, hope waned among the solar leadership. Then, hours before the ultimatum expired, the sensor array detected something new. "Commander," Lieutenant Sorrell called, "we're tracking an unidentified vessel entering the system." Lucian and Ira rushed to the command center, where a holographic star system map showed a single ship approaching at astonishing speed. "Is it them?" "The humans?" Lucian asked. "The vessel is broadcasting on the same frequency as the earlier signal," Sorrell confirmed. "They identify as the HSS Odyssey." Ira studied the sensor data, bewildered. "That can't be right. The ship is barely the size of a mid-class cruiser, smaller than our defense frigates." Word spread quickly through the solar colony. A single ship, not a dreadnought or warship, but a modest vessel, had arrived to face the Vector Armada. "The Vector fleet is reacting," Sorrell reported. "They're adjusting formation to intercept the human ship. They must think it's a scout." "They don't realize it's the entire human response," General Velo remarked. The HSS Odyssey slowed as it entered solar space, requesting to dock at the main station against the backdrop of hundreds of vector warships repositioning. Lucian led the reception committee, curiosity overriding his growing dread. The airlock cycled, and for the first time in solar history, humans stood before them. Captain Era Hayes led a small delegation of 5 officers. Bipedal like the Solars, they had opaque skin in shades of brown and pink. Their uniforms, dark blue with silver accents and unfamiliar insignia, were simple yet elegant. "Commander Carnell," Captain Hayes greeted, extending a hand in what Lucian assumed was a cultural gesture. "On behalf of humanity, we accept your request for aid." Lucian returned the gesture awkwardly, then pointed to the view screen displaying the vector fleet. "Captain Hayes, we appreciate your response, but forgive my bluntness. You brought one ship against hundreds." A faint smile crossed Hayes's face. "Yes, one ship is what we deemed sufficient for this situation. But the vector fleet," Ira began, "is substantial," Hayes acknowledged. "But numbers aren't everything in interstellar conflict. History has taught us that lesson repeatedly." The confidence in her voice was either delusional or hinted at warfare knowledge beyond solar experience. Lucian couldn't decide whether to be intrigued or alarmed. "The Vector have given us until tomorrow to surrender," he explained. "Then they'll attack." Hayes nodded, unperturbed. "Then we have time to plan. Shall we?" The strategic conference room felt cramped with the human delegation present. Hayes analyzed the holographic display of the Vector fleet's formations with precision, occasionally asking about their attack patterns and weapon capabilities. "Why only one ship?" Lucian finally asked. "If humanity wants to help, why not send a fleet?" Hayes looked up, thoughtful. "Commander, humanity has existed for eons. We fought countless wars. Some nearly destroyed us. Others nearly obliterated star systems. We learned that overwhelming force often creates more problems than it solves." "But against the Vector," Ira started. "One ship is enough," Hayes said simply. "The Odyssey was designed for scenarios like this." Before they could press further, an alarm blared. Lieutenant Sorel's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, the Vector have attacked our outer defense platform. They're not waiting for the deadline." A squadron of Vector destroyers had broken formation, advancing on a solar defense satellite. "It's a test," Hayes observed calmly. "They're probing your defenses, assessing your response." "We must deploy interceptors," General Velo declared. "No," Hayes countered. "Let us handle this initial engagement." Before the solar officers could protest, Hayes contacted her ship. "Lieutenant Commander Wallace, execute pattern Epsilon. Target the lead destroyer only." On the tactical display, the Odyssey accelerated toward the Vector squadron. The solar officers braced for the human ship's destruction. Instead, the Odyssey executed maneuvers defying conventional physics, bending its trajectory in impossible ways and evading vector fire with ease. "What are we seeing?" General Velo demanded. "Those movements violate navigational physics." "Localized gravitational manipulation," Hayes explained casually, "a standard defensive tactic." As they watched, the Odyssey positioned itself between the Vector squadron and the solar platform. The Vector ships fired their primary weapons, but something extraordinary happened. Energy beams and projectiles curved around the human ship, some reversing to strike their own vessels. 2 Vector destroyers erupted in flames, hit by their own weaponry. "Impossible," Ira whispered, her skin pulsing with shock. "Gravitational lens array," Hayes clarified. "We bend space to redirect energy and matter, highly effective against brute force tactics." The surviving Vector ships retreated to their main fleet, which seemed to ripple with agitation on the display. "You've provoked them," Lucian noted. "Good," Hayes replied. "Anger leads to errors." While the Solar Command coordinated defenses, Ira slipped to a private terminal, her curiosity about the humans overriding caution. Using her clearance, she accessed the station's sensor arrays, focusing on the Odyssey. The energy readings were unlike anything in the solar database, with a core resembling a contained quantum singularity, a power source theoretically impossible for a ship that size. When she rejoined the others, Hayes gave her a knowing look. "Find anything interesting, Commander Mellon?" Ira hesitated. "Your ship's power source. It's unprecedented." Hayes smiled faintly. "We've had eons to refine our technology. Humanity's history stretches back further than most realize." "How far?" Lucian asked. Before Hayes could answer, another tactical alert sounded. This time it was no probe. The main Vector fleet was mobilizing for a full assault. Lord Solver's furious voice boomed through the comms. "This is your final warning, solar worms. Surrender or be annihilated. And to the pathetic humans who dare interfere, your single ship insults the Vector Empire's might. You will be crushed." Hayes listened with near amusement. When the transmission ended, she turned to Lucian. "Diplomacy has failed. Shall we move to more direct methods?" On the Vector flagship, Lord Silver raged. "One ship? They mock us with one ship." Admiral Kresh approached cautiously. "My lord, the vessel uses unfamiliar technology. Perhaps we should study their capabilities before—" "They are nothing," Sauveur bellowed. "No single ship, however advanced, can withstand our armada. Deploy all squadrons. I want that human ship destroyed, and the solar colony in flames by day's end." Not all Vector officers shared his confidence. Commander Vayton, a veteran of countless campaigns, whispered to his peers out of Silver's earshot. "Did you see what they did to Alpha Squadron? Their own weapons turned against them. I've never seen such technology." "One lucky maneuver doesn't mean they can withstand our full might," Commander Drex countered. "The human ship will fall within minutes." Vayten remained unconvinced. "There are ancient tales of human encounters, entire fleets lost to single engagements." "Superstition," Drex scoffed. "Prepare for glory." The Vector assault began with overwhelming force. Hundreds of warships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging with menacing energy. Missiles and fighter squadrons launched in coordinated waves to overwhelm any defense. Tension on the Solar Command Station was palpable, yet Captain Hayes remained composed, issuing orders with measured calm. "Commander Carnell," she addressed Lucian, "focus your platforms on protecting civilian centers. The Odyssey will engage the main Vector fleet." "That's suicide," General Velo objected. "Even with your technology, you can't withstand their firepower." Hayes nodded. "You're not wrong, General. Our gravitational systems consume immense energy, and sustained use against this fleet will strain our resources." "Then why?" Lucian asked. "Because, Commander, sometimes the only way to win is to risk everything." Hayes turned to her comms officer. "Connect me to the ship. Tell Commander Wallace to prepare the gravimetric disruptor." Ira's eyes widened. "A what?" "A last resort weapon," Hayes explained. "It creates a localized space-time distortion, a controlled gravitational singularity. It could disable or destroy much of the Vector fleet." "And the risks?" Lucian pressed, sensing more. Hayes hesitated. "The singularity is hard to control. It could expand beyond the target zone, affecting solar space." "And the Odyssey?" Ira asked. "It would likely be caught in the effect," Hayes admitted. "That's why we send one ship, to minimize losses if the worst happens." The revelation chilled the solar officers. These humans weren't just confident. They were ready to sacrifice themselves on an unthinkable scale. "There must be another way," Lucian insisted. "I'm open to ideas," Hayes replied. "But we have minutes, not hours." As they debated, the tactical display showed the Odyssey intercepting the Vector vanguard. Its defensive systems redirected enemy fire and created gravitational eddies that disrupted Vector formations. But the sheer number of attackers was overwhelming, and the Odyssey's energy signature wavered. Hayes' first officer reported, "Shield integrity at 62% and falling. Gravitational array at maximum. We can't sustain this for more than 17 minutes." Hayes nodded grimly. "Prepare the disruptor. Target coordinates to follow." Lucian exchanged a glance with Ira, then decided, "Captain Hayes, if you're using this weapon, let us help. Our fighters can create a diversion, drawing vector fire from your ship." "That's extremely risky," Hayes warned. "As opposed to certain destruction if you fail," Lucian countered. "We'd rather act than wait for death." Hayes smiled genuinely. "A sentiment humanity understands. Very well, let's coordinate." As the Solars readied their fighters, Hayes shared more about humanity's past. "Thousands of years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves with our own technology. Multiple times. We built weapons that could devastate planets before grasping the responsibility they entailed." "What changed?" Ira asked. "We did," Hayes said, gazing at the stars. "Through painful lessons and near extinction, we learned that true power lies in precision, restraint, and knowing when to withhold force." "So you limit yourselves to one ship," Lucian realized. "Yes, one ship with our best technology and crew, enough to make a difference without catastrophic escalation. It doesn't always work, but unleashing our full military has proven far more dangerous." A tactical alert interrupted. The Vector flagship was positioning, surrounded by elite guard vessels. "They're charging a spatial disruptor," Ira reported. "If it hits our colony—" Hayes studied the display. "That's our target. Commander Carnell, launch your fighters. Draw off their escorts. We need a clear shot at the flagship." The ensuing battle became Solar legend. Outmatched Solar fighters used brilliant maneuvers to confuse and divide the Vector fleet, disrupting their formation for every loss they suffered. The Odyssey exploited these gaps, its gravitational technology sowing chaos. Vector ships collided as space warped around them, their own beams and missiles turned back by invisible forces. Yet, the Vector's numbers began to overwhelm. The Odyssey's energy weakened, and Solar fighters fell rapidly. On the Vector flagship, Lord Solver seethed as his formation crumbled. "Enough! Charge the Void Reaver cannon. Target their colony. Let them watch their home burn." The weapon powered up, its sinister glow distorting space. Hayes reacted instantly. "They're targeting your colony. We're out of time." She contacted her ship. "Commander Wallace, deploy the gravimetric disruptor. Full power." "Captain," Wallace replied, "at full power, we can't contain the singularity for more than seconds. The Odyssey will be caught." "Understood. Execute." Lucian stepped forward. "Captain Hayes." "It's been an honor, Commander Carnell," Hayes interrupted, offering her hand. "I hope we've lived up to the legends." The tactical display showed a pinpoint of light from the Odyssey, expanding into a swirling gravitational vortex. The effect was catastrophic for the Vector fleet. Ships nearest the phenomenon were shredded, their hulls crumpling as space-time warped. Others collided, creating a chain reaction of destruction. The Eternal Dominion listed, its engines disrupted. But the Odyssey suffered too, its shields collapsing and hull buckling under the strain. "Their core is critical," Ira reported, voice breaking. "They can't contain it." Lucian acted. "All fighters, converge on the human ship. Tractor beams at maximum. Pull them from the Singularity's range." It seemed futile against such forces, but they tried. Then, unexpectedly, the Odyssey's core pulsed, counteracting the Singularity. The vortex collapsed in a final flash, leaving the Vector fleet in ruins. The Eternal Dominion drifted, its cannon and command structure destroyed. Hundreds of vector ships were damaged or obliterated. The Odyssey, though battered, showed faint life signs. "Get a rescue team to that ship now," Lucian ordered. Solar teams evacuated most of the Odyssey's crew, including Commander Wallace, though many were injured. Captain Hayes was found in the core chamber, having manually stabilized the Singularity's collapse. The Vector remnants retreated in disarray, Lord Silver among the casualties. Without him, surviving commanders withdrew, abandoning their conquest. As the Solars treated the wounded and assessed damage, Lucian visited Hayes in the medical facility. She was weak but conscious, now in medical garments. "Commander Carnell," she greeted, "your medical tech seems compatible with human physiology." "We adapted protocols from your ship's database," Lucian explained. "Your crew granted access during evacuation." Hayes nodded. "Good. Cooperation is promising." She winced, trying to sit up. "The Vector—" "Retreating," Lucian said. "Their command is in chaos, their flagship disabled. We expect no further aggression soon. Your colony is damaged but intact, thanks to you." He sat beside her. "You were explaining humanity's history, why you intervene this way." Hayes smiled faintly. "We're an ancient species, older than most know. We've spent millennia fighting, innovating, erring, and learning. After devastating wars, we saw that overwhelming force often escalates conflicts. So we built ships like the Odyssey, advanced but limited in number, for precision and restraint." "It's a huge risk," Lucian noted. "All meaningful actions are. But one ship with our best tech and will to stand with those in need often achieves more than a fleet. And if it fails, the damage is contained." Ira joined, holding a device. "Captain Hayes, our engineers salvaged what they could from the Odyssey. The core is beyond our repair capabilities." Hayes accepted this calmly. "The ship served its purpose. We can request a retrieval vessel from human space." "That won't be necessary," Ira said. "Our council voted to assist with repairs. It'll take time and we'll need guidance, but it's the least we can do." She handed Hayes the device. "This is a solar signal beacon, set to our emergency frequencies across all colonies, so you'll know if we need you, and that you don't fight alone." Hayes studied it, then set it aside. "Thank you, Commander Mellon. This marks the start of a valuable alliance." In the following days, the Solars began rebuilding, while the human crew integrated, sharing knowledge and aiding repairs. One evening, Lucian stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The damaged Odyssey, surrounded by solar repair ships, gleamed faintly. "Still processing it?" Ira asked, joining him. "Just one ship," Lucian mused. "How could humans know it would suffice?" "Maybe they didn't," Ira suggested. "Maybe they knew it was all they should send." Lucian nodded. "Hayes told me humanity's greatest strength isn't their weapons or tech, but their resolve to face impossible odds when needed." "A philosophy worth adopting," Ira agreed. "She also promised they'd return if we need them." Lucian turned from the viewport. "Not with a fleet, but with exactly what's needed. No more, no less." As they left, the Odyssey's battered hull caught the starlight, a promise against the void. Just one ship, but sometimes one was enough. The Odyssey would eventually depart, carrying the seeds of a solar-human alliance. Across the eyeing galaxy, whispers spread of the battle. How one human ship defeated a vector armada, and of an ancient species that intervened not with overwhelming might, but with precisely what was needed. Just one ship. It was all they sent. It was all they needed.